from Grange Academy. Morning. And we've also got Olivia Sim from Kilmarnock Academy. Good morning. Okay, now pass over to Lynn, who will go through the Senate and ask for any apologies.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members. If you hear your name, can you confirm your attendance, please? Councillor Reid?
Here.
Councillor McMahon?
Lynn, thanks.
Councillor Cowan?
Here.
Councillor Linton?
Here.
Councillor Barton?
Here, thanks, Lynn.
We have an apology this morning from Councillor Douglas. Councillor Ingram?
Yes, thanks, Lynn.
Councillor Maitland?
Here.
Councillor Mabin?
Here, thanks.
Councillor Watts?
Morning, I'm here.
Councillor Filson? Dr David Lewis?
Here.
Harriet Johnston?
Here, thanks.
Babs Mowat? And we have an apologies also this morning from Hazel Malacotti and John Semple. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Lynn. Okay, we go to item 1, which is declaration of interest. Don't think there's anything really obvious. Speak if you have any. Okay, go to item 2E then, and that's Education Service Standards and Quality Report 24-25, and Linda will take us through that.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members, and good morning to our two young people from Kilmarnock and Grange Academy, Olivia and Emily. It's lovely to have you here and have a wee blether with you beforehand. So good morning, members. I'm delighted to be with you this morning to present this year's Standards and Quality Report for the Education Service covering the academic year 24-25. Members, in referring to the covering report, starting with recommendations, you'll note there are only 3 recommendations in regards to this report, and that's to note the content of the Standards and Quality Report. Clearly, I hope to congratulate the children and young people, staff, families and communities associated, and obviously to note the contents. Members, in the covering report, the background to the report is covered in paragraphs 3 through 6. This is an annual and statutory report, but may I also point out that this is also a statutory obligation on all schools individually to publish their Standards and Quality Report into the public domain, and that has been done. Members, the main report, paragraphs 6 through 8, the structure of the report is discussed in paragraph 6, and the information and data that we use as evidence is discussed further in paragraph 7. Members, in moving towards the formal report itself, as I take you through the report, I'll refer you to the page numbers in your packs rather than those in the actual report itself to avoid any confusion. So it's the ones at the top of the page, members. So, members, aside from the introductions, pages 7 to 12 set the scene for our report, and I'm very grateful to John Semple as Parent Council Steering Group Chair and Councillor Cowan as spokesperson for their input to the report. Next year, we're going to have a young person joining us at the front in terms of their introduction to the report, and also a young person joining us to present to you with your good grace, members, next year in terms of fulfilling that commitment to pupil voice and indeed the UNCRC. Members, in moving through that report, page 14 will take you to an infographic which represents the demographic of the East Ayrshire Education Service, and hopefully from that infographic you're able to see the size and scale. But could I also add, in terms of being a very newly formed Directorate of Education and Skills, that clearly I would like to pay homage to the role, as we do during the report, that both SL 33, 66 and soon to be 99 actually play in that part in terms of the wider education and skills offer. Members, pages 15 to 17 cover learning estate, and most recently, clearly, we've opened our very beautiful new St Sophia's as a flagship first NRFIT school, as a Scottish first. Pages 18 to 22 cover the highlights of, or some of the highlights of the year, covering attainment, positive destinations, SL 66 being opened, and other really nice stories from the year. But as you can imagine, members, there are more stories than we can possibly cover in here. Members, we now move to the formal sections of the report, and I'll start this with section 1 on attainment and performance, which will take you from pages 23 through 29. Primary school attainment is done versus ACEL, so achievement of a level. That's on page 22. And members will, I hope, note the increases at all measures. P1, 4 and 7 literacy combined, P1, 4 and 7 numeracy combined and P4 writing. So in all of our ASL measures, we have made significant progress. They clearly give a flavour of the achievements of the young people and the staff in our primary schools. But I am noting, because again, this report is not all about just the positives, a slight increase in the gap. So if there's one statistic we don't want to increase, that's the gap between Q5 and Q1. But again, members, I would ask you to be mindful that we have so few children in Q5, which is 79 and 10, that it makes it quite a difficult measure for us to manoeuvre, because we have a significant amount of young people in quintile 1, which would cover 71 and 2. So again, I would just say that we note the slight increase in the gap, but ultimately it tends to be a very difficult one for us because there's very few children in East Ayrshire residing in Q5 postcodes. Members, moving through the report and moving on to page 24, you will see an outline of the senior phase data in respect of SCQF 4, 5 and 6. We do also track at levels, we actually track at levels 1, 2, 3 and also 7, where you would see advanced higher as well, but we obviously synopsise that. You'll be aware, members, we take a full separate report to you for leavers exam results under separate cover. So the S&Q is not simply an exam results report. We do bring that to you for leavers data in the detail that you would expect around about exam results. So these are literally just some highlights in the space. These represent the achievements of the young people who left school in 23-24, bearing in mind, members, because the insight data doesn't update until February with our leavers. So we've just had our local exam results, but clearly that for leavers won't be available to us till February, when we'll be back in the chamber presenting that to you. And hopefully, again, from what we've seen already, that should be very positive. Members, positive destinations are also covered in this section, and once again a really favourable comparison with the virtual comparator at 95%. Pages 25 to 26 discuss attendance, and clearly we have already identified this as a national and local concern. Page 25 lists a huge amount of the interventions already going on, and we're really starting to see some very significant improvements in schools attendance. And again, we have a members seminar coming up on that shortly for a deeper dive, but some of our schools have actually increased their attendance rates by 4% and some as much as 5%, which is utterly phenomenal when you consider the size and scale of some of the schools. Members, pages 26 and 27 will take you through exclusions, and again, members, I would again note that, you know, there's some percentage increases here in that space, but ultimately, members, our head teachers are all well versed in, you know, consequential and relational based thinking, but at times exclusion is indeed necessary. So in that space there, we are seeing a small increase in primary from 4.6 to 4.9, and then in secondary 46.3 to 47.5. And can I add that ASN is not necessarily what members might deem to be the ASN schools, such as Willowbank and Hillside. That would also cover our supported learning centres, our communication centres. So in terms of the ASN exclusion rate in that particular space. Members, pages 28 and 29 take you through some key highlights of the Pupil Equity Fund and the Strategic Equity Fund as key contributors. And we also speak of some of the leadership training that we undertake on these pages. Members, in moving to section 2, which is school and centre improvement, whilst this was never in the public domain, I did want to out this one in terms of transparency. We were subject to a thematic review in October 2024 as an education service from HMIE as part of the Central Education Service and as part of a national review. So every local authority in Scotland had a thematic review visit from HMIE, which lasted a week. So very intensive week for us in education, clearly, with a lot of engagement with stakeholders, but I wanted to pull through some of the aspects from that. It was a very successful visit to us in East Ayrshire, but clearly support for statutory issues such as school improvement plans and standards and quality, support to improve quality self-evaluation, as I know we'll come to next in learning visits, but also support for staff and professional learning were three of the areas highlighted in terms of the role and the function of the Central Education Service. Members, in moving to page 30, learning visits are a key aspect of our quality assurance processes in schools, and they've been utterly transformational in a lot of ways. You can see the list of schools that have been visited by our central teams, and you can also see the format of these visits contained in the standards and quality report. So it's not just us at the centre going out, we are going out with other head teachers, other staff who are joining us, and they're building up their skills and knowledge as part of those suites of visits. So I hope you would agree that's been an intensive amount of work undertaken by, led by Graham McGinn and the quality assurance team in that space. Members, in addition to those internal learning visits, we obviously have the joy of the visits from HMIE via the school inspections process, and they are listed on page 31. And I do apologise, I think Mauchline was that good, we've put it in twice, so we will remove that for the final version. But no, we weren't asking you to go and look at it twice because it was 4 very good. So they're all really good reports. So ultimately, apologies. This is a pre-published version that we're bringing to you today, but we'll make sure that one's addressed. So clearly, members, I would just re-advise you that every one of these school inspection reports is taken to governance and scrutiny for that additional scrutiny, and that the head teachers actually join us in those spaces to do so with elected members. Learning visits are clearly not just confined to schools, and our colleagues in early years clearly have undertaken tireless work to sustain high standards, and those internal visits are listed on page 32, as well as the outcomes of those visits. We also have lists of joint inspections that have been undertaken. Clearly, we are a service that's very used to that level of scrutiny, both internal and external. And on page 33, again, I hope you would agree that the work undertaken by the Early Years Improvement team, the Excellence and Equity leads, the work undertaken there has been utterly phenomenal across the year. Members, as you would expect, section 3 is rather meaty because it pertains to the health and well-being of young people, and clearly that's something of both national and local concern, and something that I know we all hold very dear to our hearts here in East Ayrshire. Some key highlights around learning, teaching and assessment: profiling of health and well-being using a variety of tools available to schools, clearly work around about gender-based violence, equally safe, and clearly very pertinent right now around about the 16 days campaign. Members, clearly we were highly involved in the Children at Risk of Harm inspection that you're all aware of in terms of the recent outcomes, in terms of those being good. But clearly, as the largest universal service, we played a key part in the process and outcomes, and we are now working on any recommendations and outcomes in the process. But I would like to highlight that as a service, we came out of that inspection incredibly well. Members, page 36 will show you again some really excellent data showing increase again in uptake for 2-year-olds in East Ayrshire Council, and also an increase in uptake of blended places where young people, or very young people, are with childminders and part-time in our ECCs as well. So really delighted to see that uptake. Members, pages 37 to 42 cover the vast work. I won't go into the detail of that. There is so much there. The vast work of our psychological services and inclusion teams. Page 43, again, will provide you our annual summary of the school counselling service. It has been such a welcome addition to the suite of supports available to young people from age 10 upwards. So I hope you find page 43 very helpful in breaking down some of the reasons for those referrals, and some of the young people's satisfaction around about those areas. Members, clearly moving to section 4, we are absolutely delighted to be reporting to you today as a very new Directorate of Education and Skills, and it's been a privilege and a joy to welcome new colleagues into our service from Employability, and I'm clearly incredibly grateful to Ian Burgoyne and Marjorie for the work alongside, as well as my colleague David McDowell working alongside us in terms of that new move to an Employability and Skills Directorate. Members, clearly in February 2025, the positive destinations percentage was published, which was 95.2%, and believe it or not, only 0.5% under national, when previously for East Ayrshire that had absolutely not been the case. So to be near the national level is simply phenomenal for us here, but we're certainly still after the 4.8. June 2025 saw that through to a 92% sustained level. And on page 46, members, and I make no shame in stating this, but our Skills and Learning offer in East Ayrshire Council is one that we are the national envy of in regards to SL 33, 66, and clearly soon to be SL 99 up in Domellington. Page 47 highlights some of the amazing work done in these amazing centres. I make no apology for using that word twice. And then pages 48 and 49 cover both the SL summer programme that I know many of you have had the joy to visit, and also the training programmes undertaken by young people across a suite of different careers. Members, in moving to section 5, which is our work on page 50, which is working together with families and communities, clearly, again, a meaty section, but around about clearly members, parental engagement, the work of our Home Link holiday programme, the ASN programme, working with our care experienced young people. Need to also give a major shout out today to our early years community practitioners and the transformational work of the parent empowerment programme there on page 52, one of which I had the joy of attending myself and ended up rather mucky in the process. Members, moving on to section 6, the last formal section on page 54, this will cover digital transformation and sustainability. Pages 54 through 59 cover our work in digital transformation in detail, which I hope you'll agree is vast. From our flagship at South West Connects, which is where we have the offer of hires and advanced hires right across East, North, South and Dumfries and Galloway, but we very much host very much here in East Ayrshire. We're allowing our young people, for example, in Doon Academy to take hires and advanced hires that they would never have had access to in terms of the size and scale of that particular school, and also timetabling and staffing constraints in any school. So, and they've also removed an awful lot of the travel that used to take place as part of those potential consortium arrangements that I'm sure you can all remember, members. So clearly we also have our new online school, and I'm happy to come back and present on that further. We now have an online school to help young people who are non-attending think about coming back and retain those connections to school. So whilst it is a very early stage, I'm obviously delighted that we've got staff working in that online space and actually working with young people for whom the other option would be sat at home doing absolutely nothing. So clearly just delighted to see young people engaging in that. And I met a young person just the other week, I think Eddie was with me, in Grange Academy. In fact, no, it was Park School, who through the online school had come back to school. So it's that piece about letting them know we still love and care for them, and really that space is there to come back, and they'll be welcomed back to school, but in that particular space as they work through that difficulty, that's there. I would also highlight our collaboration with Giglets through the early intervention monies afforded to us by members in our Approach to Reading project, and we're really starting to see some amazing results, as you'll see from the ACEL data, not just attributable to that, but also to the skill of staff in utilising those. Members, in moving on to climate change and sustainability, again, I make no apology for saying I think we are the envy of Scotland in this particular space. From our climate change conference to our Clean Green Awards, to Mission to Mars, to having the most green flags in any education authority in Scotland by a country mile. Our initiatives have been the subject of many visits from other local authorities. I'd certainly like to thank Dawn and the team in that particular space for amazing work. And I know even just tomorrow it's Climate Conference Day, but I think the work that's been done in this space with children and young people, parents and carers, staff and communities has been nothing short of utterly phenomenal in this space. Members, in referring you back to the covering report paper, clearly the last part of the formal report is my own closing remarks, but in returning you back to the paper, the implications of this report are listed on page 5 and 6. I'd like to thank Maureen McSeveny, who pulls this together. It is a gargantuan task of pulling that together alongside that of my full senior team and central education management team, and I'm happy to take any questions or observations.
Thanks very much, Linda. A great report and very readable report. I'd like to let you thank Maureen McSeveny for all her hard work there. It's really good to informative and easy to read. Colleagues, any comments? Elaine.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Linda and her team for this full and comprehensive report, and I realise it is a statutory annual report, but I think it's important for us to take this opportunity to pause and reflect back on the massive amount of amazing work that goes on in our schools and the talent and the passion of the staff that deliver all this for our children and our communities. Really encouraged to hear at Linda's outset the mention of young person involvement for next year, that pupil voice in UNCR, right? That's incredibly encouraging. Really looking forward to that. One of the highlights for me, I think, was when we had the COSLA National Leadership Team down at SL 66. So I don't think Linda needs to apologise for saying we're the national envy there with the skills and learnings model that we have across the local authority, and getting those children active and into routes of employment is one thing, but there's a secondary benefit to the families that isn't our primary concern, but that's obviously a spin-off benefit. We do have some of our challenges, but they're all recognised. There's no surprises in there for them. And obviously, our concerns about attendance does follow the national picture as well. So it's good to hear that some of our schools have massive improvements with 4% and 5% increase there. And I'm pleased to hear that we have got the elected members development session. And as it's the 1st of October, I can actually say it's next month, which is November, believe it or not. So that'll be good to get that development session with elected members to get in and see the root causes of some of this non-attendance and anything that we can do in our communities to encourage to get our kids into school, because that's the best place for them. I also want to thank the time that Linda's staff has taken when elected members have visited the facilities to see firsthand some of the work that goes on, and also the work with the governance and scrutiny to do that other level of scrutinising some of the inspection reports. That's excellent. And I'll definitely be taking up the offer to see more about the online school to help the non-attenders back in. Hopefully my other colleagues will join me in that. So thank you to Linda and thank you to everyone and the whole of the education team and all the support staff from the facilities and management side as well. Incredibly proud of what you have done.
Thanks very much, Elaine. I know that the COSLA president keeps mentioning their visit down to SL66, so it's obviously had a great impact, and I think some of the testimonials that we heard that day were really moving. Linda.
Thank you, Leader. Linda, just to say, as requested in the recommendations, I will congratulate the children and young people, but over and above your team here, the teachers, staff, everybody, they absolutely deserve it. I've got a couple of wee questions. See, in relation to attendance, you're talking on page 25 of the report that there's plans to upscale in 25-26. Can you just give us a wee bit more on what it is you're planning to do? And the other thing was on page 36, the early learning and childcare. It's saying there's 77 eligible children, but they're going out with this authority. So I think, is that normal? Is it a high figure? Is it a low figure? And what's the cost to us? Cheers, thanks.
Thanks, Linda. Oh, Linda, yeah.
Thank you very, very much, Councillor Mabin. So yeah, with the attendance piece, we've had we've 2 tranches of schools involved in the national projects, but also working with us on a local basis as well. So tranche 1, so this is also with Education Scotland. So tranche 1 are seen on average, they've gone up by about 4.7% of the involvement there. And we actually just did a presentation 2 weeks ago from these schools to the other heads. So within our own group of head teachers around about that. And tranche 2 are improving by around about 2.7%. And apologies for remembering some of these, but what we're seeing just now in terms of those figures is a huge increase right across, but ultimately we need the 3rd tranche to come on board now. So the 2nd tranche are up and running. So what they're doing is they're working on improvement science type approaches. So, you know, run charts, looking at very individual targeted groups of young people. So those young people who are potentially quite persistent non-attenders, or it's a certain day that they don't come in. So each school have their own project, if you like, or kind of synopsis in terms of sort of theory on what they're working on. So for some schools, that might be 20 young people that they're looking at. For some schools, it might be, we're looking at 3rd year boys as an issue. So it's all to do with the size and context and scale of the school. I'm looking at the girls from Grange and Kilmarnock, where that would be absolutely huge if you were to try and focus in on every young person. It's more about really trying to target those young people. But I think the other piece is, and we did a wonderful presentation, I think a lot of you will know Stephen Swan from On the Hank, and Stephen came and presented to the heads about the work he does individually with the families in terms of encouraging the families and helping the families get the young people back to school. So really with that one, Councillor Mabin, every school is doing kind of different things, but they're coming to see you in here and chamber to let you know exactly what those are, be able to drill right down into those individual schools for you and look at what's actually happening on an East Ayrshire basis. But there's been 2 main tranches, so they've been on the go now for 2 years. Obviously, we had some really pretty damning attendance statistics of late, so I don't shy from that at all. I think you need to face up to these things and acknowledge, right, okay, what we're going to do. So the bottom line is 2 tranches. So we've got tranche 1, I think there's about 15 schools in tranche 1. I probably want to go and check that, and another 15 in tranche 2. So that encompasses a huge amount of schools that are in that space nationally, but that's not to say the others aren't working on it. So just because they're in the Education Scotland project, obviously doesn't mean they're not looking at attendance. But attendance as well, just to remind members, is a key front door of our Education Service Improvement Plan 24 to 27 that's already been in this chamber. So no, it's something we'll continue to work on. Regards the young people that go elsewhere, it's the funding follows the child, so there's no cost to the authority. So the numbers are about right. It's just a lot of it's to do with geography, and in particular in the South Ayrshire Authority, you've got the proximity of potentially South Ayrshire placements, and obviously at this end of the authority you might have the proximity of North Ayrshire placements. So it's the piece there, it's very much that the funding's attached to the child that then goes to the early years centre.
Okay, thanks for that, Linda. I think the event that Councillor Cowan mentioned, I think we look forward to that, and I've heard for a number of members in terms of what Stephen Swan's doing in on-time to see good practice being shared right across East Ayrshire and what's working, because there seems to be some schools that are absolutely bucking the trend and what is a huge issue nationally. So I think we look forward to that. I have Neil Watts, Claire Maitland and Neil Ingram. So Neil, you're first.
Thank you. Can I just say a massive thank you to Linda and her team. I've read through this report, and in the synopsis at the end it said, I hope you enjoy reading the report. I did enjoy reading the report. It does show that you've done such a lot of hard work in getting to where we are, but it also shows that there are a lot of challenges moving forward. And I know that you've got new strings to your bow that have been added, and I know that you will take up the challenge of that. My big congratulations to yourself and to the children across the spectrum. It is a great report. Well done.
Thanks, Neil. Claire.
Thank you very much, Leader. And Linda, thank you. And my enormous thanks to your students, your staff, your family, and to our communities for all the work that they do. And what an excellent paper. And we're just going to have a wee bit of a history lesson here, if that's okay. So I'm looking at page 35, and it's stay period protected. And I'd just like to take us back to 2017 and remind everyone we were one of the first authorities in the whole of Scotland to introduce free sanitary products. And it's something that we don't bang our drum about. But in terms of a barrier to attendance and education, this is where it has absolutely helped. And of course, getting rid of the stigma as well. And now on the very first line, you see it's we're in accordance with the Free Provision Act from 2021, and we started 4 years earlier than that. So I just wanted to be a history lesson for East Ayrshire there. Also on that, what I'd like to know is, how have we measured the success in the uptake of the products, and is there any way possible, and I'm quite happy to take this off the table, any way possible to measure or even survey the children? We know how hard it is to survey the children. We couldn't do it ourselves with our own endometriosis survey. It was adults that we went to. But I know the impact endometriosis had on my own attendance at school and how that impacted on health and education, etc. So I would love to know if there is any way we could go through the unions, and perhaps from Amanda, like we did with the endometriosis friendly employer group. And I'd just like to thank everyone from back in 2017 for supporting this initiative, and I hope it's had real impact on the young girls and women in our education today. And thank you to everybody. Wonderful report. Thanks.
Thanks, Claire.
Thanks, Councillor Maitland, and I can only concur with your comments on the period provision piece in terms of the sanitary products, and it's just become part of life in terms of that availability. And I'm looking at Kilmarnock Academy and remembering the bags on the doors and that discretion around about provision, and it's just become, it's everywhere you go now, so it's just fantastic. But we actually don't, we can go and do a survey anytime around about what that feels like for young people in terms of the endometriosis piece specifically. But I think ultimately about, you know, usage and do they find the service valuable? There's certainly no issue at all. And that doesn't need to come through here because that would be an operational matter just to try and find out what that would be. And indeed, it might be a really good conversation to have with a core group of young people from the schools to look at how they might want to do that. And actually, again, thinking about the pupil voice piece, think about, could the young people lead this and actually bring it back here as a really powerful piece of research in terms of what's the impact of having the free sanitary product provision, but also what's the impact of endometriosis and other gynecological issues on young people's attendance. Because, you know, certainly I thank you for sharing your own in that space, and know that for many of us in the chamber that will have been absolutely similar. So I think it's a really worthwhile comment there, and also maybe about access to medical help when that's something that they need. So I think that could be quite a wide-ranging piece of work. I'd be happy to work with you on that, Councillor Maitland. Be really good.
Thanks very much, Linda. Over to Neil. Councillor Ingram.
Thank you very much. Yeah, again, I just echo, it's great to see the amazing work and results our young folk have achieved, supported by parents, carers, teachers and support staff in our schools. I'll just get a couple of equality-based questions. In regard to gender-based violence, you touched on the fact that the Violence Against Women Partnership 16 Days of Actions coming up and starting on the 25th of November this year. Can you advise what work has been done in schools to address this issue, and are any of our senior pupils taking part in any of the organised events taking place? And I've got another wee question, but I'll let you answer that one first.
I'll go with that one first, if that's okay, through you, Leader. So, Councillor Ingram, delighted to say yes. We've got a badge competition on the go, I believe, the 16 days badge competition. So the young people are out to design, you know, badges around about the whole piece, and that's actually going from 11 to 25. So that's again targeting the secondary schools. So in that particular regard, I'd actually going to get some more information in this one around about the actual campaign and looking at how we were integrated there. So doing a competition for P6 to S6. In addition, the Mentors in Violence Prevention. Now that's a scheme we run in every single secondary school around about that. So they are specific young people, again, mainly S4, 5, 6. It tends to be more senior young people. So they'll be delivering scenario-based training. So they'll actually be talking to the young people about some scenarios, you know, around about, you know, assault, misogyny. They'll be having these discussions, you know, live with young people in the classrooms. Our campus police officers are also a big piece of this, Councillor Ingram. So just to say there's a joined up piece here. So there was a development session for MVP actually just on the 1st of September, so only a calendar month ago. We had that session from, and I know yourself, Councillor McMahon, in that are very active in that space. So that piece around about, you know, that common understanding of mentors and violence prevention. We also had support from, I think it was the Star Centre and Equally Safe and Education Scotland. So we've just had a huge development session with pupils and staff in that particular space. So basically, we've got an awful lot going on. We've got an e-learning module available as well to schools in that particular space. And obviously the key aspect of that delivery is coming through the PSE programme from the very get-go. And I mean, that would start in primary school around about that piece about understanding, you know, what's appropriate contact and what's not. So ultimately a huge raft of activity, not just around the 16 days, but actually on an ongoing basis right through the year in terms of the actual education curriculum. But I hope you can hear, you know, from that other piece about that engagement with other organisations, you know, and local organisations as well around about, you know, very difficult aspects of violence against women and others. So, yeah, quite a lot going on in this space.
Great to hear. Thank you very much. My second question was in a similar vein. It's in regard to intolerance, bigotry and racism. And could you advise what work has been done in schools to address those issues as well?
So you've picked another good week for that question, Councillor Ingram, because tomorrow night I think a lot of us will be at Forward Together, which is a huge local anti-bigotry and sectarianism organisation run by John Houston. I'll be attending that myself to see the young people from the schools get their awards, many of whom have been to visit Northern Ireland and understand some of the fundamental issues around about some of these matters. But on top of that, you know, clearly in terms of, you've got the campaign-based, you know, piece, obviously around about anti-bullying week, anti-racism. You've got the council led campaigns, but also those in schools. Show Racism, the Red Card. Then we've also got clearly the PSE programme. But what we also do have, Councillor Ingram, is we have methodologies for recording any of that in schools. So notwithstanding the educational piece, we also have a methodology for recording any of those aspects, which sits, believe it or not, in our CMIS modules. So around about anything that's bullying, racism, intolerance. So that's also recorded. So ultimately, if in the worst case scenario, something does happen, that we've got live information in that particular space. So, but we do hope that really the front foot of this is the education piece, particularly in today's society, you know, around about understanding local issues, understanding national issues, and understanding what's going on out there for young people, which again will come through a variety of curriculum methodologies, not just PSE. A lot of this will come through social subjects and other areas just for discussion. So clearly, again, a lot going on. I'd be struggling to tell you absolutely everything, but again, welcome to come out and see any of it in action at any point, Councillor Ingram, which might actually be really, really helpful to see some of the young people engaged in the MVP work.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Neil. We've got Harriet Johnson. Harriet.
Hello. First of all, I apologise, my camera isn't working today. But I'd just like to add my congratulations to everyone involved in contributing to this report and all the services represented in it for your amazing work. I'd like to comment on the positive impact of the school counselling service, which is noted on page 42 of your report. I'm pleased to see that the school counselling service for under 10s is having such a positive impact, and I note it's being funded for a further 2 years. Is there a possibility that this service will go on to receive permanent funding to ensure that the positive impact of early intervention and prevention continues? I'm thinking my observation really is based on my awareness of the wider context of pressures on children and young people's mental health services. And so I consider this service to be a vital one. And I'm just wondering what the future is likely to be. Thank you.
Through you, Leader. Thank you. And it's a great question, Harriet. All I can say is I hope so. It has been a game changer in schools, as you can probably see from the infographic that you're referring to. It allows us to swim upstream with young people and catch aspects of any part of their lives through counselling. That, you know, again, yes, there's teachers, there's school staff, etc., but to have trained counsellors able to see young people and have those discussions, and it also it has a significant impact, and I'm not quoting research on this, but it avoids clinicisation of young people, you know, into potentially GP surgeries or, you know, other areas where, and I know some young people might end up in that scenario, but having that ability to talk to somebody that doesn't know them and having that chance to share and receive what is proper, indeed medical advice in the space, and legitimate advice is something that I'll be dead honest, I would go to the wall for in terms of being able to fund this going forward. But all I can say is I really do hope it continues to be funded, Harriet, because again, it's something whereby I think were this to be removed from schools, it would be a really, really big loss. So I can only give an opinion on how valuable this is and what a fantastic scheme it's been in the schools. It has been a game changer for us in education, and I'm sure right across children's services, not just speaking with, you know, a sole hat on. So that would be my own perspective on it, Harriet. But no, I would agree with you. It's just a very vital service.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks. And thank you, Harriet. No, I'll just echo the comments in terms of we know how valuable this service is, but I don't think it's even just a case. We know the pressures are changing and increasing in young people, and the difficulties we have in terms of, I don't know if I can say clinicisation, that's a good word, Linda, but I know how difficult that is to get access to these services, so there is more important role for our counselling. So I think, you know, not just maintain it, I would like to hope that we can improve the service and you know, as challenges increase. So I think that's a very, very good question indeed. Okay, I've got Councillor Jim McMahon here.
Thank you, Leader. Again, I echo the sentiments of everybody right across the education team, and congratulate everybody, for yourself, Linda, all the way right down to right through the years, secondary, primary, through the early years, and the janitorial staff and everything. Everybody has a part to play in delivering that education service. Looking at some of the stats through the paper, particularly proud as a local authority for what we've delivered in more education as far as assets go and buildings go over the last 8 years, and how proud I am. Coming from a result in its day at its prime, coming to academy, then my daughters went to Son Primary School, then moving in to see some of the new estate that we've did there, not just the new stuff, but some of the investment with older stuff. Really proud for that, giving teachers and pupils that environment to thrive in. So really encouraged to say that. Linda, you said there was too many stories to cover. There's absolutely too many stories to cover. I want to pick out one particular story. A young man, and it's nothing to do with literacy or numeracy. It was a musician. I was at East Ayrshire final for our Young Musician of the Year at in the library at the Grange. And young Gregor for Stuart shone through in the marimba Resorts, I think it was, piece he played in the marimba. And it was absolutely astonishing. He left East Ayrshire to compete in the national event and won that event there as well. So I know there was lots of stories we could pick out, but I was there and witnessed 10 young, really talented musicians. For me, they didn't get the credit for the venue they were in, but I think we're going to deal with that for where it is the next time. But absolutely astonishing achievement. I was so proud of them on the night. Picking up on the council and the inclusion team, I know personally some of the work that they have done. I have saw the improvements. I'm not going to mention the C word, but going back to 2022 and the implications of that still ongoing with some of our young people in that recovery time through some of the traumatic experiences they are still experiencing. Faith 22, it's a fantastic job. And Harry, you were right to pick up on that, and we'll see where we can go with that and as far as that goes. Neil, and your stuff around about the domestic violence, I've really encouraged. I've been doing this role now as the White Ribbon champion now for coming 8 years, and dealing with the MVP kids away at the very start, and really knowing that some of these pupils that were being mentored are now mentors, and seeing what they're saying and coming through in that particular space. So really encouraged. I think it's been a great report, and once again, thank you to everybody that's involved in putting the report together for delivering the service.
Okay, thanks, Jim. I think everybody's had a very good saying that, so I'll just take us now to the recommendations. Can we agree the recommendations? Okay. Next item is item 3E, which is the policy review schedule, and Amanda Lowe will take us through that. Amanda.
Thanks, Chair, and morning, members. The purpose of this report is to ask Cabinet to approve the introduction of a new gambling awareness policy and recommend to Cabinet proposed changes to employment policies within paragraph 2 of the report. Paragraphs 3 through to 5 lay out the background of the policy review schedule, and starting in paragraph 7 describes the gambling awareness policy, which, as I've already stated, is a new policy that's been created to support our employees who may have issues related to gambling harms. The policy is aligned to the Council signing the Workplace Charter to reduce harms in partnership with RCA Trust to provide training for Council employees and counselling support for those that's been impacted. Also in paragraph 7 details some of the highlights that's covered within the report. Paragraph 8, the review of the reservist policy has been carried out, and there's 2 minor changes to that. That one is introducing the hyperlink to the special leave policy and updating the contact details for the Royal Air Force. Otherwise, there's no changes in that policy proposed. Paragraph 9 details the Care Inspectorate review with 3 changes, which are all in line with the changes made by the Care Inspectorate, and they are detailed in paragraph 9. Paragraph 10 advises that a policy review was carried out of breastfeeding and return to work, and there are no changes proposed for that. Implications in paragraph 13, noting that in paragraph 16 our trade union colleagues have been actively involved either through collective bargaining and teachers consultative groups as appropriate, and take you back to paragraph 2 for the recommendations, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Amanda. I know in particular gambling awareness, we've had tremendous interest from a number of councils on this. We had the working group previously looked at this, and the challenges they're facing, the temptations in terms of gambling are more increased than ever as the gambling industry is making more profits than ever. So I think we've got to see the other side of that, where the impact in our communities in terms of people's welfare and well-being. Members, any comments or questions? Okay, can we go just to recommendations, paragraph 2? Can we agree recommendations? Okay, and thanks for that. Next 40 item is the exit interview update, and that's Donna Nielsen. Donna.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide an annual update to Cabinet on the exit interview responses that we received in the last 12 months and any subsequent actions. And Cabinet are asked to note and approve the recommendations that are set out in paragraph 2. In terms of background covered at paragraphs 3 to 8, this covers the review of the exit interview process that was carried out in 2023-24 to what we have now, and this is the first annual report since the revised process was put in place. So the reporting process was updated with any areas of concern reviewed to include a review of to go into the workforce strategy group twice a year and to consider any wider policy framework implications, and also reporting to Cabinet on an annual basis with any areas of concern highlighted. As part of the process, responses received are passed to HR business partners to review, highlighting areas of concern identified, and these are passed on to appropriate heads of service when there is a need. In addition, that most recently, as part of our review of this process, we need to update our internal processes around getting feedback on what actions have been taken. So that will be something that we take on board in future years in terms of our analysis of trends. In terms of the current position, it's covered from, in terms of exit interview information, covered points 9 to 11. This covers our responses received. So although 704 employees left East Ayrshire Council during the 12-month period, only 164 completed an exit interview, so that was 23%. In terms of equalities data, this is covered at points 12 to 14. And again, highlighting that these are optional questions, so not everyone completed it. 47% of all leavers were 55 plus, which we would expect in terms of like the majority of people were retiring. So also the majority of respondents, 96% of employees advised their ethnicity was white. Although 68% of employees advised they did not have a disability, 24.5% advised that they did have a disability, and 12 preferred not to say. It should also be noted that out of the 40 employees who advised they had a disability, 15 left the council either solely or partly due to medical reasons, with one employee advising that their reason for leaving was linked to their migraines, and this became aggravated due to the lighting in the office, and another advised that they left due to work-related stress. However, there were 13 employees who didn't give any information. The 16 to 24 age group of leavers, although was the smallest group, still make up 10% of all leavers, and at a time we're trying to encourage young people to join the council, this is an area that we would want to focus on in the future in terms of trying to find out a bit more about why that is. The leavers breakdown by service is covered at paragraph 15 and as a table just highlighting where the main areas that people left from who did complete a questionnaire. So 52 within education, facilities and property management were 20, housing and communities 24, locality health and care 27. So they were the kind of highest areas of people responding. The reasons for leaving are covered at paragraph 16 to 19, and again there's a table which details all of the reasons for leaving. The highest reasons for employees leaving is retirement, as we had mentioned earlier, so 32% of all people were leaving due to retirement, and this was followed by progression promoted posts at 18%. 17% left the council due to the work environment, and 13 advised they left due to being dissatisfied with the organisation. From employees who selected other, there were a range of different reasons given, and this was including the end of the contract or funding, the distance that they were travelling, some lack of support from management, and attending meetings on non-working days. So this data was provided to appropriate HR business partners to investigate at the time, and going forward we'll be getting updates from them to provide in future reports. Feedback regarding the council is covered from points 20 to 24, and again there is a table at point 21 which details some of the questions that were asked and whether people agreed or disagreed. At point 22, 88% of the respondents felt they were well informed on council policies and procedures, and 84% of respondents felt their manager treated them fairly and with respect. However, 29% didn't feel that problems and complaints were resolved in a prompt and fair manner, and 27% didn't have regular FaceTime or face-to-face meetings with their manager. The majority of respondents said East Ayrshire Council was a good place to work. And there's a wee small table there just at paragraph 23. And for the employees who selected no, there were issues around communication and support, not feeling valued, and sometimes unmanageable workloads. Paragraphs 25 to 26 covers the feedback about council jobs. So this is how people felt about their particular roles. And again, there's a table there which details that. 83% of respondents felt the job induction they received was meaningful and helpful, and 82% felt that the job was positively challenging. However, 46% did not agree that there was sufficient opportunities for career advancement. And there were also in the 30s percentages those who didn't think there was good team morale or didn't feel recognised. So an action in that area is around how we encourage as much as possible regular face-to-face and team meetings to assist with team morale and recognition. Points 27 and 28 cover council services and benefits. And again, there were some comments left here around VivUp, a good inclusion for the service. The credit union is a good option. Occupational health is very supportive, and flexible working is a great benefit. The overall experience with East Ayrshire Council is covered by paragraph 29. And although there were some negatives, these were outweighed by the positives, which include that day services is a pleasure to work within, provides a great opportunity to work with a wide range of agencies and families. Really enjoyed working within corporate support, and it's been really helpful in terms of progression and for them personally within and out with work. Home visits within community care are becoming a bit difficult in terms of time limits. The graduate intern sessions held by our OD team were enjoyable. The management team within locality health and care are kind, considerate and supportive, and front door services is heading in a positive direction and is supported by an experienced team. So quite a number of positives in there. In terms of conclusion, this is covered at paragraphs 30 with some bullet points in terms of some of the actions that we would be looking to take. So covering more analysis and monitoring of our disabilities. We're already a disability confident employer, and we hope to go for leadership status around that. So we need to make sure that we're fully supporting any employees who have declared disabilities and are looking for support. And we want to continue to raise awareness of our supportive policies and any LearnPro modules and toolkits that we've got in place. We want to develop a survey for our young workforce to try and understand what's working well for them and what encourages them to work for the council, and anything else that we can do to encourage them to stay. Again, which had mentioned earlier, the importance of carrying out FaceTime and face-to-face supervision meetings. Obviously, there is reports regularly on FaceTimes, and it's just making sure that these are continuing. In terms of areas of bullying and harassment, again, it's about making sure that we raise an awareness of our support and report hub that we've got available. There's a whole range of information and guidance there. We also have our Dignity at Work policy, which people can access, and there's a number of Learn Pro modules which we would continue to raise awareness of. Implications are covered at paragraphs 31 and human resource implications covered at 32 and 33, and they're just highlighting some of the actions again that we're hoping to take going forward, and that just takes you back to the recommendations at paragraph 2.
Okay, do we have any, thanks for the report. Any questions, Neil? And then Elaine?
Yeah, thanks very much. It's just that obviously 23% of all leavers is quite a low number of people engaging with that, and obviously there'll be reasons behind people leaving. It might not be easy to get that feedback from folk who are leaving employment with us. What do we do to encourage leavers to engage with that process? And I mean, is that part of the discussion to try and raise that number? Because obviously the feedback that we get is valuable, so that we can have a look at our processes, have a look at the way we operate, and hopefully retain staff in future.
Thanks. I mean, it is totally voluntary for people to do. We do send out the link, and if I suppose what also we should be doing is making sure that managers, if they're informed that one of their team are leaving, is about offering them to have that exit interview, whether that be face-to-face and filling in the form together, or just encouraging them as much as possible to fill it in when they go. I'm not sure that we can really do much else.
Through you, Chair, just to add to that, so we will look at a kind of comm strategy round about that internal to make sure we're promoting it. Although the figure is low at 23%, that's actually one of the more positive figures that we've had in the past. You do tend to find that, and it's good to see a number of positive comments in there, because in past years gone by, it was normally just people that had a gripe or a complaint about the council that tended to fill them in. So hopefully we need to shift that balance.
Thanks, Amanda. Elaine?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Donna, for the report. It's really encouraging to see there's attention and a focus in this area. I've just got a quick question about the table in paragraph 16, the reasons for leaving. Do we do any kind of benchmarking with similar organisations, is just to see those reasons typical, and are the frequencies typical? And just another wee quick comment, again, really encouraged to see that you're going to be serving the existing young people to identify what's working, what's not working, so that will give us some flexibility to maybe look at things in other areas as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Currently we don't. That's not something that we've done before in terms of benchmarking what other local authorities are finding, but that's certainly something that we could look at, and it's probably, it's a good idea in terms of probably our closest other local authorities. And yeah, I think there's definitely a need for us to speak to our young people because we're doing a lot of work, at the front door, getting them in and, going through the different qualifications or getting good work experience, good valuable work experience. So we want to find out what would help them to stay in the future. So definitely. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Donna. Anyone else? Okay, can we go to recommendations? Page 68, can we agree recommendations? Okay, thanks for that. And we go to final E item, and that's employee awards ceremony proposals. Amanda?
Thanks, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present to Cabinet the proposals to convene the employee awards ceremony on 15th of May 2026. The background is detailed within paragraphs 3 through to 7. And starting in paragraph 8 through to 11 talks about the venue proposed. The Dean Castle, I think everybody would concur that it was an excellent venue for the previous awards. We've already been in discussions with our colleagues in Leisure Trust about the next awards. In 2024, we split the cost of the marquee with themselves for the ceremony. And with these early discussions, it's plain that they don't plan to have a marquee as they did previously, but they do have an alternative event space for the full month of May and therefore have offered this to us at a reduced cost. This space will allow for increased capacity and allow to extend the invites as appropriate. It's a bigger stage, so help us to explore alternative and additional entertainment options. And the Leisure Trust is also going to provide technical support for all the sound, lighting, etc., which is invaluable experience for us. Paragraph 12 details the employee rewards, which the categories, which are remaining unchanged from 2024. And paragraph 13 details that we again propose to recognise our longest serving employees within the ceremony. Paragraphs 14 and 15 describe the award types. In 2024, our apprentice within Communities Economy, Hayley Wright, designed and created our plaque that we had. So for 2026, we're currently exploring alternative options that are cost efficient, but also can be created internally to the council where at all possible. Paragraph 16 details the attendees. Paragraph 17 details like in 2024, the focus will be in showcasing the nominees, and this will be done through a series of short videos, and also then gives a run through of what the event will take place on the day. Paragraph 18 just describes the nominations and how they'll be to a judging panel of elected members and other key representatives of the council. And paragraph 19, as per past arrangements, council will be requested to nominate 5 elected members to participate in the judging panel. That could be the same 5 or it could be a mixture, because I've had a couple of questions about that one. The timeline is detailed in paragraph 20. Paragraph 23, the financial implications, we still have a balance from previous awards to go towards this, and any additional costs would be met from people and culture balances. The recommendations are in paragraph 2, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Amanda. Claire.
Thanks, Amanda, and I think all of us that attended the last awards thought it a very worthwhile event, very hot, but very worthwhile, so perhaps not a marquee this year. The one thing I would possibly suggest is that the 5 elected members put forward are new elected members, ones that haven't served in the last 2 committees. I think that would only be a fair thing to do. Thank you.
I don't know if we can. It's up to the individual groups who they put up, but it's something worth considering. For council to decide, I suppose. So, but it's a good suggestion. Yeah, but Elaine.
Thank you, Chair. Amanda, paragraph 11. It's not actually a question. I've actually got a suggestion. So it mentions that there will be a bigger stage which will allow to explore additional entertainment options. So echoing back what Councillor McMahon was saying earlier about some of our amazing, talented young musicians that we have, there could be an opportunity to promote them and give them a really excellent experience if the facility and the stage and all the technical stuff supports that. So just I'm putting it as a suggestion. I don't need a response back. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, we'll certainly consider that. We did for young people at the last awards, but obviously the stage was limited, but we will consider that going forward.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, can we agree recommendations? Okay, and that's the end of the E items. You have the education folk a couple of minutes to gather their stuff together. Okay, just continue the rest of the business then. And item 6, communication strategy, 25-27. Amanda, you're back on.
Thanks, Chair. And can I just start with thanking members for the opportunity to discuss the protocols and the strategy, and I hope you'll see that we've taken on board the comments. So the purpose of this report is to seek approval to implement the East Ayrshire Council Communication Strategy 25-27. The details, the background apologies are detailed in paragraphs 3 through to 4, with paragraphs 5 through to 7 detailing the communication standards, the core principles and the priorities. And paragraph 8 notes the methodology, and noting that this strategy reinforces our commitment to work collaboratively with all council services and partners to develop effective messaging. Paragraph 9, noting that we'll continue to use a range of channels and outlets to ensure we maximise the reach of our messaging. And paragraph 10, accessibility becoming a common theme across all forms of communication across all channels. The challenges are laid out in paragraph 11, and this strategy articulates the number of challenges and influences the what, the how, the when, the where and the why for all future communication activities. Implications are in paragraph 13, and noting in paragraph 15, the strategy has been evaluated through the Equality Impact Assessment process and not considered to have any adverse impact on our local communities. Recommendations are in paragraph 2, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much, Amanda. I think that's very topical at the moment. I think the way we're having to deal with the media is changing almost on a weekly, monthly basis, as social media really is the way that most people are getting their information. But I think, you know, within that, I think I was watching a podcast for Billy Bragg, who I like musically, and he was saying that social media, I think he encapsulated it for me, that people can feel they can say what they like in social media, and respect is just totally getting out the window. So I think we must be absolutely respectful in all that we're saying and try to maintain those kind of standards to respect. We may disagree on loads of things, but we absolutely must maintain respect and reflect that with our community, and as we respond and maintain those values, I think it's really, really important. Members, any comments? Okay, it's a thoroughly good strategy. I think we've all had a look at it per group, and I think it's handy to have with us, and I think it's been well produced, and just thank your team, Amanda, for doing that. I know it's, as I said earlier, the situation is very much evolving, and I think that achieves that. Okay, so can we go to recommendations? Page 81, do you agree? And go to item 7, which is implementation of 20-mile-per-hour speed limits. Barry McDonnell. Barry.
Thanks, Chair, the Cabinet members. This report outlines our proposals for the implementation of 20 miles per hour speed limits on restricted roads across East Ayrshire. The background paragraphs explain the history around the proposed bill, which fell at stage 1 of the parliamentary process in 2019. This would have applied a blanket lowering of the speed limit across the country within built-up areas from 30 miles per hour to 20 miles per hour. This approach was rejected as it was felt that the one-size-fits-all approach would not be appropriate. Later guidance from Transport Scotland further supported this decision and set out the reasons and rationale for adopting an incremental approach at a localised level. Paragraphs 6 to 8 explain how the lowering of speed limits contribute to the safe system approach promoted through Scotland's road safety framework to 2030 and the proven benefits in terms of reducing the severity of accidents. We've also provided some narrative in paragraphs 9 to 11 on the additional benefits gained by these initiatives, such as reduced vehicle emissions and noise levels. And references made to the emerging results which have been established through academic studies across the UK, which demonstrate very positive outcomes. Paragraph 12 has been included to highlight the fact that Transport Scotland are progressing proposals across the country's trunk road network.
Within East Ayrshire, they propose to lower the speed limit on the A76 through Mauchline and Newcomnock, and are keen to see this complemented by similar arrangements for the local road networks throughout both settlements. Therefore, our proposed approach, as set out from paragraph 13, is to promote temporary orders covering Mauchline and Newcomnock, which would enable the effects to be trialled through pre- and post-implementation traffic surveys, and the trials would be supported by a communications package. We also propose similar trials covering the villages of Comores and Cricket Home, with the rationale set out at paragraphs 17 and 18. From paragraph 19, we note the arrangements covering the 4 settlements shall be monitored. The information gathered from the different scenarios will help inform our approach at further locations, which we propose to tackle on a settlement-by-settlement basis in order of population. All information gathered through these trials will be collated and presented for further Cabinet consideration within the next 6 to 12 months. As per the recommendations set out at paragraph 2, it is recommended that Cabinet agrees the introduction of temporary traffic regulation orders for lowering the speed limit to 20 miles per hour in all local roads within Mauchline, Newcomnock, Comores and Cricket Home. Notes the future monitoring arrangements to establish the effectiveness of the TTROs, and agrees to consider a future report on the wider rollout of 20 miles per hour speed limits across East Ayrshire settlements. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Barry. Jim McMahon.
Thanks, Peter. Thank you very much for the paper, Barry, which I welcome. It's been a long time coming for me, the reduction in that movement to 20 mile an hour where it's possible, and the introduction of the temporary traffic measures that we're going to do with that, particularly along the A76 both in Mauchline, and particularly for me and my ward in Newcomnock and the implications of that because of the school. And I think it's really important that we recognise the dangers run about schools with that 30, and I think you'll lay the statistics out in paragraph 6 run about the impact and potential impact of that. No moving for 20 and keeping it at 30, where the survival rate, injury rate, death rates all improve with that reduction. It's about safety for me. I know when this piece goes out in media, there'll be a bit of resentment run about that 20 mile, but it's run about safety. Absolutely for me. How are we going to enforce that? I don't know. There's no final solution to that yet. Hopefully, our colleagues in Police Scotland can help us along that route. But all it takes is one person to drive at 20 mile an hour through a village, and somebody's got to follow them at 20 mile an hour. So we'd encourage the residents in the Mauchline A76, if you want people to adhere to that limit, adhere to it yourself. And if you adhere to it, then the people behind you, whether they're visiting, passing through, or whether they're other residents within the villages, they're going to drive at 20 mile an hour. Again, I'll just emphasise the safety issues. It's never nice losing anyone to a road accident. It's never nice losing a child to a road accident, and we've had our share of that over the last couple of years in East Ayrshire. These statistics, we need to try and lower them, and this for me is another way forward and one measure that we can do to reduce the fatalities and accidents on the road.
Thanks very much, Jim. I think we all agree with that. If we can make our roads safer, the more we can do that to we know how it's impacting our communities. We've sadly too many of these over recent times. I've got Graham, then I've got Linda. Graham,
thanks, Dougie. I agree with everything you said there, Jim. I appreciate your words. But it's just a point of clarification on the implementation of Cricket Home, Barry. Now, is this going to be implemented in the village only, or is it going to stretch the Cricket Home main road to Harrowford Bridge as well? That's quite a large stretch of road.
No, it will include the main road, you know, for London Road through to the other side of Cricket Home.
Right, thanks, Barry. I just want to clarify whether it's the village only or it's going to include the main road.
I know there's a lot of confusion out there where Harrowford starts and Cricket Home ends. It's very much the river, although you don't see it for the road. Had that in good authority. Linda.
Thank you, Leader. Agree with what Councillor McMahon and Councillor Barton were saying, but I've got a wee issue with one of the paragraphs in here. So if you look at paragraph 4 and it's saying changing the speed limit doesn't guarantee that the speeds will change, right? We all know that anyway. But as somebody that spends quite a bit of time stuck in the traffic jam that is Mauchline, what I'm seeing and what I've been getting in emails over the past few days is that people are the people that live there are finding and saying that they're not getting to drive anywhere near 20 mile an hour quite a lot of the time because it's gridlock a lot of the time. And I think anybody that drives through it would agree, probably yourself, Jim, you'll pass it through it a lot. So I'm not in any way against this, but my concern is we need to guarantee that it's going to be enforced, because there's no point in doing it. What's it costing the public purse to get it done? And if we're going to spend money, whoever's money, well, it's the public's money, but if we're going to do that, then we need to be certain that it can be policed and enforced. And if it can't be, then is it no just a waste of money?
Come on.
That's it. I'll bring in Jim.
To your points, Linda, I think we can't guarantee that it's going to be enforced. No guarantees with that, because I mean, I drive through Mauchline now and I get some of the concerns around about Mauchline, but I also see the minute they get through the traffic, and that 30 mile an hour flashing sign, slow down, because they're already breaching that. Remember, this first and foremost is about safety. This is about safety, reduction in traffic accidents, pedestrian safety. The introduction again of pavement parking was all round about safety. I don't think it would be a waste of money. I don't think we're looking at engineering costs. I think it's signage and the implication that the paperwork and administration at this particular time, where we already have engineering reports, engineering road bumps in place. They'll be there, but as far as I'm aware just now, it will be the implication of the signs and administration to deliver it. Certainly no guarantees that it can be enforced.
Thanks, Jim. Linda?
Right, so in that case, totally take on board what you've said there, Jim. I've spent 3.5 years fighting with Amy in Transport Scotland, trying to get the signs moved at Hillhead Heights. It was my first piece of casework when I was elected in 2022. At first I was told it wasn't to happen because they didn't think there was any need for it. It then got transferred over to Transport Scotland. That wasn't you guys, by the way, that was Amy. It went to Transport Scotland. They eventually agreed. Now, I've got emails going back to 2022 right up, and they eventually agreed to do it, and they were going to take it back way over the brow of the hill and then put a 40 mile an hour buffer zone in before that. So it would have started 40 mile an hour probably down at the turn to Ramsey and Jackson. Then it would have went to 30 before you hit the brow of the hill, which is actually probably closer to being the boundary of the village now. So they did the electrical work maybe about a year ago, because I would have been about that, and I thought, right, that's great, it's getting done. Then it stopped, so I chased them up, and they're saying, oh, it's stopping because of this consultation. So if we're saying safety, right, why is it taking me 3.5 years to get a sign moved that would have maybe stopped some of the HGVs in particular coming hurtling into the village at maybe 40 mile an hour?
So who I can be accountable for is Amy and Transport Scotland. But what we can, and I can reflect on what you're saying, Rune, about that time scale for some of these things to be implemented. We have had the same issues in Newcombe dealing with Transport Scotland and Amy. I've been going on longer than 3 years for further safety road measures in Newcombe. But where we don't have control of that budget and the final decisions, we're reliant on Amy and Transport Scotland to work with us. So I get the frustration about that. I have the same frustrations being able to deliver this, but we're actually delivering the new. But where we can deliver and where it is our own remit, I think we've got a wee bit more tighter controls, because that decision will be made in the likes of here and with our colleagues at ARA.
Thanks. I mean, once again, I've written, I agree with all that's been said. I think just absolute common sense, Linda, but coming up to the brow of that hill, that we try and get some method of getting drivers to slow down. I think we'd all agree with that. I've written again about safety issues to the Minister jointly, this time with the leader of Dumfries and Galloway, and asked them for a visit. We'll see how we go with that, and it'll be one of the first things I'll be asking them is to look at some of the safety aspects of the 76, if we've not already, and try and get some answers there. I'll bring in Neil and then I'll bring in Rich.
Thank you.
Is it on this issue? Just
Yes, yeah. Right. Well, it's a. Yeah, okay. Right. Well, yes, I'm extremely supportive of the trial introduction of these 20-mile-an-hour zones within these communities. Over the last few years, as we all know, there have been some really horrendous road accidents and even fatalities on the A76 in New Cumnock. So dealing with these speed limits across the communities will, in my view, really help to address these road safety problems, as well as helping to reduce and even stop such awful events happening again. I am also aware that my colleague in Ward 7, Councillor Alison Simmons, is happy with the trial proposals for Mauchline. However, I do have slight concerns with rolling this out across the whole of East Ayrshire in the future. We have seen in Wales the chaos effect of Labour's blanket introduction of default 20-mile-an-hour speed limits across its communities and the backlash that have come from some of those communities. That has now led to proper consultations taking place and even the removal of these zones in some of the areas where they have been opposed by local residents. That, to be fair, is like shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted, as well as being extremely costly to the local taxpayers. We must remember that blanket 20-mile-an-hour zones could increase travel times, could potentially cause driver frustration and aggressive driving, create significant challenges in enforcement and compliance, have increased costs for our council, and have a potential negative economic impact on our local businesses and communities. So going forward, I would ask our officers that during the trial periods, we ensure that we consult with our communities properly for their views and take note of those views so that we do not create the backlash from the residents in the areas that overwhelmingly do not want the zones to be implemented. In other words, we consult, then implement, not implement, then consult. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll bring in Rich first, but I mean, just to reiterate, there's no rollout ban in Scotland. That's a matter for England, and that's a devolved matter. We're simply taking this to trial. Richard.
Thanks, Leader. It was just a quick response to Councillor Maben's specific example. Of course, we'll happily take that back through Transport Scotland and Amy, as we've done in other areas recently. Councillor McMahon mentioned New Cumnock, where we have had some success following significant dialogue with Transport Scotland around street furniture, in terms of to try and encourage different behaviours around the school, which I think have been well received and started to work. So we'll take that back and we'll pick up those specific points with Transport Scotland.
Thanks, I think that's helpful, Richard. Barry.
Maybe just a couple of points just to pick up on. Councillor Maven mentioned policing and how effective it's going to be. So we have recognised that in the paper. There has been academic studies undertaken elsewhere, particularly in Edinburgh, where they've introduced 20 miles per hour without any physical interventions, and they're seeing very positive results on that. And that's mirrored elsewhere in other studies. So we're hoping to see similar results in East Ayrshire, and through the monitoring of the trials, that will help inform what we propose going forward in terms of the kind of wider rollout. the finances around introducing the 20s. There is money available from Transport Scotland to introduce that, and you know, albeit late, they have agreed to push the speed limit out at Hillhead Heights. I think it's getting pushed out an extra 100 yards, and they are introducing a buffer zone in advance of the 20. Maybe Councillor Watts mentioned the Wales example as well, so we are keen to avoid that, and we will be consulting the local population. I think in terms of, when we looked at the Wales approach, I think it was always their intention to introduce a blanket lowering of the speed limit and roll it back by exception, and that is certainly the model that's been followed by some of the London authorities as well. They felt that it was easier just to put it into place and then see what the effects are. But that's not the approach that we're adopting. Thanks.
Thanks, Barry. Brian, Linda, then Jim.
Thanks, Barry. Just to pick up some that Barry's saying, I appreciate what Transport Scotland are saying, and they're going to move them 100 yards. That's not what they've told me for 3.5 years. So I think just based on what Rich said, I'll maybe speak to yourself if that's okay, because they're backtracking on an agreement that they made, I think about 18 months ago. But again, I just want to reiterate, I'm not against this. Obviously, it is for safety reasons. I've never been against it, but I'm looking at what's getting reported in the local press. I'm seeing things on social media, and overwhelmingly, I would say that the people, I can only speak for Mauchline because it's in my ward. I wouldn't even begin to speak about Crooked Home or Comores or Newcombe, because it's not my area to speak about. Neither's Wales for that matter. But I just feel what I'm seeing and what I'm getting for the people in Mauchline is that they personally don't see the need, and they're seeing it as, would that money not be better spent elsewhere? I get that. I get their frustration, and that's why I'm raising these points today. So that's all.
No, thanks for that, Linda. I think that's appreciated. Neil, then, Jim, you want to come back? Neil?
That's just a question. It's maybe something that Barry will need to come back on. But when the trial, if it does go ahead, if we agree it, the change of speed, how is that noted for apps like your sat nav, etc., to automatically tell drivers you're going into a 20-mile-an-hour zone? Is that something you need to update? Is there a register or something like that?
I would need to come back to you on that one. That's not something I'm up to speed with, Councillor.
Jim, do you want to come in?
Yeah. Thanks again. I consciously had a look at social media before I come into this morning. I suppose for me, it's really about a good news story going out there for me, and it's really about safety. But when you get and look at the Cumnock Chronicle report, where there's 30 comments on that when it was lifted, and again, for me, sometimes the silent majority we really need to listen to, and know the people that shouting so much on the Facebook, the minority, it's about the majority and the safety around about that. The issues about Mauchline haven't been going on for years and years and years, and I think that the plans laid out for a bypass in the 1960s are still there. Yes, it's a sad song and it's a sad tune, but I'm afraid that's the harsh realities. For me, it's all about safety and social media. I go back to communications, put a story out there that's really positive for me, and it can be reframed in seconds.
Okay, I think it was a good chat, that. So we'll put Amanda's new communication strategy to the test with us, and see if we can look at the press release with interest. Okay, is there any other questions? I think we've had a good discussion on this, and I look forward to the results of the test within the 4 communities. Can we agree the recommendations laid down in paragraph 2? Thanks everybody. And the final item is the visitor levy scheme, and that's David Liddell.
Thanks, Chair. This report provides an update on the progress of the Visitor Levy Scotland Act, noting that a variety of approaches have been undertaken across Scotland to implement the discretionary legislation. Paragraphs 3 through to 8 sets out the background to new legislation, whilst Edinburgh City Council is one of the early adopters with a 5% levy towards a tourism infrastructure submission. Other local authorities are looking to follow, predominantly within some of the larger cities. However, a number of councils have decided to pause or abandon their plans for a scheme, providing an opportunity to assess the performance of the levy where it's been introduced elsewhere in Scotland. Within East Ayrshire, paragraphs 9 through to 21 sets out in the report a combination of methods that have been used to assess the likely impact of such a scheme, including analysis of the bedstock data, available accommodation capacity, engagement with businesses and national bodies such as Visit Scotland, along with associated benchmarking. However, the financial impact of a potential scheme is estimated to be negative as a result of the relatively small size of overnight accommodation within the East Ayrshire sector, as detailed within paragraph 12, along with the high costs and maintenance costs to set up and maintain the software programme and enforcement. Engagement with local businesses through the tourism network also demonstrates significant opposition to such a scheme at this time. Based on these findings, this report recommends that further work on the development of a visitor levy is paused until at least October 2027. Chair, implications are set out in paragraphs 22 to 32 with recommendations confirmed in paragraph 2, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time in the report.
Thanks, David. Well, I think what we've got here in terms of the numbers, I don't think it's profitable for us to get down, but I think it's something to keep an eye on, because obviously other authorities will be implementing this. So it's good to, maybe to look at, good practice from that. So I think it's sound just to maybe kind of pause at the moment until we see how things go. Members, colleagues, Elaine?
Just back you up there, Chair. I'm fully supportive of the pragmatic approach that the councillors are taking in this. I think the burden on local tourist business far outweighs any benefits of the infrastructure. So I think taking a cautious approach is definitely the way forward. So thanks, David and his team, for the work they've done to evidence that and get us to this point.
Thanks, Elaine. Okay, can we, if there's no comments, can we agree the recommendations? Okay, so that's us for today, and thank you all for your attendance.